So, I believe most of the folks on the call are familiar with me, have interacted with me by now, but my name is Aarin Clemons, Workforce Manager for Polaris and AP here. You know that we work hard to be the nonprofit partner to manufacturing companies here in Rhode Island. So no matter which of you manufacturers I'm talking to, no matter where in the state or what industry segment you operate in, it's very, very clear because I have a job that you're all worried about workforce. Specifically, we hear a bunch about retaining skilled workers, finding skilled workers, the pipeline, and keeping it filled and keeping folks in the roles that they're in and growing into more higher skilled roles. So today's session will be all about finding solutions to this extremely common, but also very urgent problem. I want you guys to think about that opening poll that was up on the screen. I'll bounce back to it in just a moment. But you know, when you think about what your challenges are, Ellie put some in the chat. Kelly or Jody, do you guys have anything you want to add about this, your biggest workforce challenges right now?
Aarin, we met with you last week. I'm part of that group with Charlene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember.
I think we shared with you some of the challenges that we were having, but our business is growing and we're investing in the company trying to grow talent, but it just seems like people don't really want to work. Hard to find the ones who do want to work. We've made plenty of offers to folks, they accept, and then they ghost us. They don't show up for their first day, and they don't respond to any calls or anything like that. And if a company in the same park is offering $1 or $2 more an hour, then it's easy to lose people for that $1 or $2, even though our environment, our benefits, things like that are pretty strong.
You hit the nail on the head. You referenced several of the examples that I often give. And one of the things that I counsel companies to think about is to look at it from the other way around, is that behavior of accepting a job, but then not showing up, ghosting it, not responding to a phone call would suggest that the person was looking for a job, but not a job with you yet, right? And we want to get to the point where that pipeline, that recruitment effort is bringing you folks that are looking for work with you, with your unique company in the manufacturing sector in the state, right? So that's kind of 3 tiers there that we have to hit, proximity, but also interest in what you're doing and what manufacturing is on the whole. So we're certainly pushing up against a generation that is uncertain of what manufacturing is and what it would mean to work for a company doing it. So I absolutely understand your frustration. And Jody, look to hear anything from you if you have any additional comments you'd like to add. No pressure. Okay, no worries. We'll move on. And it looks like we have someone else joining.
Jody's just let us know in the chat, finding qualified candidates is difficult.
Jody, if you could jot down to follow up with me on what sorts of qualifications and competencies you look for and how those are described, I'd be happy to help you following this webinar to look at specifically recruitment tactics. Wonderful. And Gretchen, welcome. You haven't missed much of anything, so thanks very much for joining. We have just welcomed members of the team and are really just beginning to dive into the very common need for retention amongst area manufacturers. So we're going to be talking about, the realities, which we started to dive into, some solutions and resources, as well as your viewpoint. So we definitely want to hear from you about what you're facing and what you've tried so far whether it's worked quite well, moderately well, or you see a need to pivot in your tactics. We definitely want to hear from you, because we are here to help manufacturers in Rhode Island with their top line, bottom line, and pipeline. That pipeline being extremely important for this conversation, of course. So you have myself, Aarin Clemons, Kevin Rodrigues with Antaya Technologies, and Nathan Bonds, a project manager here on my team at Polaris MEP. So you'll be hearing the perspective of a workforce development professional like myself, a hands-on trainer in Nathan, and somebody on the ground floor running one of the wonderful companies we have here in the state, Kevin. So just a quick overview when we say that we are Polaris MEP, for those in the audience who haven't worked with us yet, which I believe, I'm unsure what company you're from, Gretchen. But we have a sole mission to help small and medium-sized Rhode Island manufacturers improve, grow, and increase their profitability. We're part of a national network of 51 manufacturing extension partnerships, known as MEPs, and we're a business unit of the URI Research Foundation. This ultimately means that we draw on national and local partner connections to help Rhode Island manufacturers. Our services cover pretty much everything from sales and marketing to help you with your top line, lean manufacturing to help you improve your bottom line, and workforce solutions like these for your pipeline. So, just like you and your company, Polaris MEP is essentially measured on its success by the federal government. We're measured on the impact that we have with you. So in order to be successful, the work we do must produce a clear impact for our clients. We're not considered successful unless you are successful. So those measurable impacts are reduced expenses, jobs retained or created, and sales. The jobs portion is clearly why we're here today. In 2022, we helped clients add or retain nearly 1,000 jobs as reported by clients. We do that in a variety of ways, and some of those we'll highlight today. So let's get started on the realities of what we're all dealing with. Statistics around the future of manufacturing are somewhat bleak, and something organizations such as ours work towards improving every day. So needless to say, I do feel a fair amount of job stability in the work that I do, because it's very clear that our industry needs the help. An MPI study stated that about 80% of manufacturing companies are having difficulty finding workers. You all know that, but 80% is a pretty staggering number. Whether a company is in manufacturing or any other industry, the number of people that are available for job openings are just not there. I applaud all of you for being here today to prepare for how to make your company the best it can be for your employees, and looking to become an employer of choice for your current and future networks. Each of the following presenters will outline some steps that each of you can take today to prepare for tomorrow. Some important stats to remember in our workforce realities are that about a quarter of manufacturing workforce is aging out of the workforce. About 500,000 open manufacturing jobs exist in the US, which to me points to a lack of understanding about what is available for folks for gainful employment in the industry across the country. So it's not a problem that's unique to Rhode Island. I will add that here in Rhode Island, we're actually benefiting from some of the lowest unemployment rate we have experienced as a state. So that means folks are, for the most part, working. What we need to circle around to is getting more folks who want to work with you. So with 2.4 million manufacturing labor shortages by 2028, now is the time to lessen that number, right? To get more folks understanding the gainful employment and opportunities that are available for them in manufacturing specifically, as opposed to just whichever job pays $1 more, as you mentioned, experiencing. Solutions, which are the bread and butter of what we do, I will hand over to Nathan to begin. You've heard a few statistics from me about the workforce shortages, and we'll move over into Nathan to start with upskilling.
Perfect. Aarin, thank you so much. And we've been hearing these statistics about the workforce shortages, and Aarin just mentioned for years now, but over the last few years, it really has hit home. I hear it from every employer I'm working with, especially now that the economy is turning up. We are trying to hire and can't get anyone, or we hire someone and a week or two later, they just stop coming to work. Actually, I just experienced this one yesterday, and it was in a machine shop, and they were specifically talking about one specific person and said, they're just not getting it. I just don't know if that person's the right person for the job. So it's very interesting, the things that we're hearing within industry. So let's look at the solutions for upskilling. So would an employee say, it was clear how I couldn't learn? So again, as Aarin was saying, once they're in your company, let's look at the retention problem from the worker perspective. So if I went and talked with people that have left or are leaving the company, would they tell me that they were always learning something new and gaining skill, that their boss coached and mentored them with their career and enabled them to be successful and grow, that they were on a great team that accomplished more than they ever thought they could? Would they say what was expected of me was clear and I got feedback on how I was doing and how to improve? So I would say the answer is probably no. So most likely what I will hear is there wasn't growth opportunity, or it was a dead-end job, or I just did the same thing day in and day out. All my boss wanted was output, 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 or my boss didn't help me, or unfortunately, I couldn't trust my boss. So the available employee pool is shrinking, and it is only going to get worse in the future, as Aarin already stated. So you will not be able to buy the skills you need in the future. So what would that look for? What would that look like as far as upskilling benefits? So that's a great question. And I know you all are thinking of it as I just said it out loud, but it really is imperative that we retain and hold on to your employees. I just mentioned that I was in this conversation awkwardly yesterday morning, in fact, where several of the employees in the surrounding area were saying, that person, and I could tell you their name, that person doesn't get it. We don't think they're the right person. Maybe they should move on. So to do this, to address what I just mentioned about how to retain and hold on to those employees, we're going to have to make a shift in the business strategy, your business strategy, to have a concerted effort in the learning and development of your existing employees, that existing retention, by continuously providing new learning and personal development. People will see opportunity to grow and will want to stay. When people get to gain new skills and knowledge through quality training, they go home at night feeling satisfied and confident that they can do a good job for the company. When you spend one-on-one time with your employees, you are dedicating time to them, and you are showing them that they are important and they are valued. There's this respect for people aspect that I talk about all the time. This will significantly reduce your turnover rate. When you treat each employee as an individual and form that relationship, trust and respect develop, and that will always lead to loyalty in a company. So let's look here at the job quality toolkit. This is just one aspect. And as you're looking at this slide, I'd like to talk about, if you look at the top left and you index over top left to right and then bottom left to right, just look at the toolkit as I'm talking about this slide. So as Aarin mentioned, we're one of 51 NIST. We throw out acronyms all the time. So National Institute of Standards and Technologies, MEP, or Manufacturing Extension Partnership Centers, or MEPs. So we don't just say, hey, I'm Nathan, I'm Aarin with Polaris. That is a snowmobile company. I am Nathan Bonds with Polaris MEP. Aarin Clemons with Polaris MEP. So we bring the latest national research and best practices to Rhode Island. The NIST, National Institutes of Standards and Technologies, Baldrige Performance Excellence Program, has identified 8 drivers. There's also 8 waste. And I'm sure that our friends at Antaya know that I talk about those all the time. And Kevin knows I talk about that. 8 drivers of job quality that are what employees want and need. These are the foundation of a new job quality toolkit and building blocks for any employer wanting to be seen as an employer of choice. So the job quality toolkit, which you're looking at that slide right now, drivers of high quality jobs are things such as recruitment and hiring, empowerment and representation, skill and career advancement. These drivers are, at a glance, what employees feel matters most as they decide whether to join. That's what Aarin was talking about. They're looking for a job, but is it your job? So whether to join or to leave your team. So check out how 5 of the 8 drivers directly relate to upskilling: benefits, empowerment, organizational culture, pay, and of course, skills and career advancement. Aaron's going to talk more about job quality drivers and a specific solution related to the toolkit. But I first want to say this isn't a totally new idea for manufacturing. So respect for people. So as you're looking at those 5 things, you're looking at this house. It's referencing the Toyota Kata, or the Toyota Way. Wow, Toyota Kata, you can tell it's on my mind. It just means pattern. So look at that house while I talk about that. So who is familiar with the Toyota Lean Production System? You can respond to us. You can raise your hand. You can do annotations or respond in the chat so that Tiffany can see it, or Aaron, anyone that's involved, or Kevin. So who's familiar with lean manufacturing? So type it into the chat, yes or no. So lean manufacturing, while you're doing that, lean manufacturing is a manufacturing management philosophy made famous by Toyota and proven successfully in thousands of companies for decades. So respect for people, I've already mentioned that, but I talk about it a lot. Respect for people is one of the main tenets of the Toyota Way. For years, I read this phrase and struggled with what that meant. Almost every organization I worked in had a mission statement that said, we value people, or people are our greatest asset. But what I realized was that respect for people doesn't mean giving them everything that they want. Respect for people does mean these 5 things. Enable them with the skills to grow and be successful. provide clear expectations. And you guys, honestly, I would take up Kevin's time and Aaron's time. I could literally talk for minutes to hours on each one of these bullet points, but I just want to say, providing clear expectations. I talk with companies just on Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday morning about very specific topics on how do we provide those clear expectations. I'm not going to go into that. I'll move to the third one, but please, that's one of those. So provide timely, honest feedback. Number 4, tell them about changes that will affect them. You'd be shocked at those things that we take for granted, that things are coming down the pipeline, and we don't even have a conversation or just stand up and tell a group of people, 12 people, 50 people, and Kevin could get into this. So tell people about changes that will affect them. Position them in a job that best uses their abilities. So, on this call, we can see how respect for people is at the core of job quality drivers. When your leadership team provides these 5 foundational needs, then they will be more poised to really create that beautiful atmosphere with their people. So when employees feel that they have a good relationship with their employer, then they want to stay and help that company be successful. So you can also probably personally relate to the fact that the number one reason that people leave their job is because of their relationship with their boss. So let's see how you can help the bosses in your company and the workers in your company both have clear expectations. So get the skills they need and be positioned in the right jobs for their abilities. So solution number 2 is going to be career pathways. And there's level 1 through 5. And I'd like to hand this back to Aarin, where he can sort of give more clarity as to the culture of respect for people.
Indeed. And I want to preface what I'll begin with a very important point that Nathan made with these 5 examples here, is that seeing this as a roadmap means looking at folks as though they are capable, which is called an asset mindset, right? So you're looking at folks with the presumption that they are indeed capable, right? So you simply need to, 1, enable them with the skills to grow and be successful, because you have to start with the idea that they are capable. Then once you provide clear expectations, provide timely, honest feedback, reference any changes that will happen, right? You will be able to actually lead and manage them through that growth, right? Because you'll be approaching, what does this person need to be at their best, most efficient in this role, right? But it starts with believing that folks are absolutely capable if they have what they need to be at their best. So with that, we'll move on to what I always like to talk about as a very beginning place that I urge you all to audit. No matter how good your documents are, take another look at it after we end this call here. You want to make sure when you're looking at career pathways, 1, that you have career pathways, right? Many companies have people they've hired, people who have mastered certain things and have subsequently been promoted because they have mastered certain additional machines, processes, and they, as a company, couldn't actually tell you what you need to grow from one step to another position. It simply has happened by nature of the skill set of the initial people they hire, right? So you want to actually define your career pathways, right? Once you have that, you can then look at actually outlining what a position, a salary, and training would be in order to advance in that direction, right? And you want to make that clear. So it's very, very important, particularly as small manufacturers, that you remember that in the times of your founders who founded the company, there was a national push towards industrialization, the realization of labor skills, and there was an educational component in schools towards that end. So we all know that most shop classes have been canceled and most arts programs have been canceled. Well, that's where we got our trained folks, right? That's where my father went into a vocational program, right? Directly out of high school and directly into the trades, my own father. Now, that same father urged me to go to college and learn things outside of the trades. I happen to know a bit about what he did because I visited him at work, but it was not encouraged to seek a job in the trades by my parents' generation. So what we have are a bunch of folks who simply don't understand what manufacturing is. And we absolutely have to admit that, right? Have to take a deep breath, a good hard look, and say, you know what, it's true. Folks don't really know what they're getting into when we ask them to come join us. So we say we're a great company that does great things, but they have no context for what that is. And what I'll ask you to think about is, if I say to you right now that I have a great job as a medical technician, I doubt many of you on this call are thinking of a job description for exactly what you'd be doing every day as a medical technician. However, you have an idea for what you think medicine is as an industry. You believe you'll be wearing some scrubs, you believe you'll be dealing with medications, right? Admin work, dealing with people sick, right? You have a context for the medical industry, right? Folks today mostly do not have a context for the manufacturing industry, which is all of our jobs collectively to give them that. So your well-designed career pathways and outlines are exactly what's going to help demystify that for people, right? And so having a designed route for employees to progress within your company through these levels are also what's going to help them understand that there's a trajectory, that it's not, as Nathan put it, dead end work, which is absolutely one of the prevailing theories, right? I laughed the other day when asking someone what they were thinking about manufacturing as work, and they referenced working in the mines, right? It's still one of the mental images that comes to people's minds. They think automotive, maybe, if they can muster that term, right? Thinking of it in industry-wise, they think industrialization, right? Big old steam engines, right? They think movie fair, 1920s, right? Locomotives and things. And they're not thinking that just about everything they use every day is the result of a manufacturing process, right? So we're going to go through relating that the job quality drivers and defining clear career pathways as a strategy that works for benefits, empowerment, organizational culture, pay, skills, and career advancement, right? As Nathan mentioned. So when Polaris MEP helps manufacturers create these career pathways, we follow pretty much a three-step approach. It starts with helping leaders define what their goals are and their top challenges, right? So we help create a leveling framework, right? Then we help customize a training matrix. I'm going to show you here on this next slide that the training matrix is very useful for planning, scheduling, tracking, and actually executing the training, right? There's several key deliverables that come from this. One is the prioritized matrix of employee development. The other is the leveling framework, which is essentially the roadmap for advancement. So when you're looking at this cross-training matrix, I want you to notice, let me see if I can actually make it just a bit bigger. I imagine this is a bit hard to read. There we go. Did that make the words in this first column large enough for you folks to read? Great. So I want you to notice here that what we're looking at is the idea of someone being untrained. Note, they are your employee, but you're recognizing that they've just begun and are untrained in your specific processes, right? Perhaps that someone is that they are seasoned. they are someone who can train someone else, right? So another great term for that is a subject matter expert. Subject matter experts don't always want to automatically become supervisors of other people. I'm sure you also have someone at your company that knows how to do every process and run every machine on that floor and has absolutely no interest in supervising other human beings through doing it, right? So those are subject matter experts, and you need to take that into consideration. Then there is a quality one here. So a need for quality control. So when we rate folks and go down, it'll help you to understand, it'll help you to fill out this leveling framework over here, and so on and so forth. Nathan can go into more detail about that. Went too far. So thinking again about career pathways and benefits. I imagine you can see how a career pathway with big skilled employees want to stay at your company, because one is demystifying quite a bit about not only what gets them to the next dollar, but what gets them to the next phase in their career, which is, again, something that folks correlate in their minds without realizing that they're doing it. They're equating an additional dollar to growth, right? That means they are making more, possibly doing more necessary, more important, correct? So we need to break that down and let folks understand what skills they're learning, right? And what that career pathway is truly doing for them, what it positions them for. So are there any questions? I'm going to pause here before we move forward. And Tiffany, so that I don't open up an additional window for the chat, I'm counting on you to chime in if there's anything I'm missing in that chat, if there's any
I certainly would do that for you. There are no questions at this time that I'm seeing.
Yeah, I imagine nothing that I've said so far has come at a shock or been particularly confusing. Most of you are on the ground every day working on these things, and I'm sure you've given these things some thought. It is good to remember that, as Nathan said, we're bringing national research to the table, and this comes after a hefty national research project from the Nis Baldridge Foundation. So what we're explaining to you is that these ideas put together work with a fair amount of certainty. So I'm next going to introduce the star of the show. They've done a great job upskilling their teams as far as we're concerned. They set out training plans, schedule the upskilling, and clearly reap the benefits. So Kevin Rodrigues is the production manager for Antaya Technologies.
Thank you, Aaron. So yeah, Antaya Technologies, we're a small company here in Warwick, Rhode Island. So founded in 1987, a little over 30 years ago. I mean, we're in 100,000 square foot space here. Volume, we're around $58 million per year, and basically 350 employees, basically one shift, but we do have a second shift that runs just partial molding. So it's a very limited second shift. But what we do here is all parts that go on automotive glass. On to the next one. So basically, our core capabilities here, we're a very vertically integrated company. So we produce our own solder alloys and our casting. It goes through our reflow department and precision soldering. That department actually is a difficult department. It's one where, you know, the skills that we learn through Polaris and with the trainings really helps to get these people up to speed a little bit faster, but more so consistent, so that they're all being trained the same way. Then stamping, wire processing, injection molding, fluxing and assembly, all those components, they kind of all align, you know, step by step until we can make the final assembly that goes over to the, not directly to the OEMs, but to the glass manufacturers. So right now, our company is 85% of the US market. So any vehicle out there right now, 85% of them have our components on there. So if you think about a small little company in Rhode Island, and we're in 85% of all the vehicles that you see out there. And worldwide, we have a footprint there as well, just not as right now, we're about 30–40% of the global market. And here's some of our products that we make. So we have our pre-soldered terminal. So basically our product has solder on them, and that will then attach to the glass. So those small terminals on the left, get soldered to the actual vehicle glass, and then the wire assemblies you see throughout, those are then connected there. So it can be for antennas, it can be for remote starters, but mainly our biggest is the rear window defogger. And now moving forward to the front windshields also, we do the defoggers for your windshield wipers and camera harnesses, front window cameras that everyone has on their vehicles now. If there's snow, the camera can't see, so we have the defogger that goes on there so that it's always clear for the glass. So, I mean, the main thing here, I mean, I heard some of the struggles that some of the people here have with employee retention, and you know, people, they come to work today, tomorrow, they're not here. So we have the same issues here. I mean, we're not immune to any of the issues that you guys have, and recruiting people, it's also difficult, but some of the things that we can do to help that, I mean, Polaris MEP, I mean, they came in, you know, worked with the team here, and it really, we saw a benefit, and we saw a big increase. Not only the people, they feel more, I don't know how you say it, they feel more ownership to what they do. So basically Nathan, his team, they, you know, they came in here, they did some group trainings with them, how to do like the job methods, how we do the job, you know, you document step by step how this job gets done. But it's not just with the supervisor, you have to go out there and work with the employees on the floor, because at the end of the day, they're the experts, they're the ones that are building it. So, you know, kind of looking at how they do it, and then detailing it step by step, and making that list, how it's made. Now, when you have a new employee, or you're trying to cross-train someone, you have a step-by-step guide, and now you're showing them exactly how to do it. Now, everyone does it the same exact way. So, you know, another person comes, oh, I do it this way. Oh, no, I do it this way. No, we always do it the same way. And same goes with how they train it. The supervisors are learning, and the leads are learning how to train the person. So it's always done exactly the same way. So, you know, the employees, they feel ownership, but then they feel like, you know, I'm giving them input, they're listening. And, you know, from there, you learn a lot from the employees. You know, a person could just be, you know, they're always assembly, but maybe they're quiet, they don't really interact, but now you have that interaction with them, and you can kind of see that they have other skills that maybe you can help develop even more. So, you know, and then then the one-on-one coaching. I mean, you know, they come in and they help us with one-on-one. So they're one-on-one with that supervisor, with that lead, or who it may be. And, you know, that dialect back and forth, you know, that kind of builds the confidence within them as well. And, you know, I could see that as well. Me as being their manager, I can see, hey, these guys are engaged. I see a difference in them. I go out, audit the process, and they're doing what they said they were going to do and what they were trained to do. So what does that mean? That means that it's working. I mean, a lot of times we train people, but they go back doing it the old way that they did it before. So when they're being trained and they go back and you see that they're doing exactly the way that they were trained, it shows that, hey, it does work, and they bought into it. So it's definitely helped with our retention here. And, you know, we do have attrition here as well as everyone does. So we did lose a couple of supervisors, but we had people all lined up. So it's kind of a perfect scenario for us. We had a supervisor, and then he had two leads that we worked really closely with. And that supervisor became the manager. That just happened 2 weeks ago. So he became the manager, and then his lead became the supervisor. So it was really nice transition to see these three folks, they were trained, they were ready, and a position opened up, and they just moved right in. So it was great for them. They were super excited to be a part of that. I mean, it was great for me, because I got to see them grow, but also it creates some motivation within the plant for everyone else, because everyone else can look and say, hey, these guys, you know, they were just a lead, or you know, they were just an assembly worker, and now they're a lead, or they're a supervisor, they're a manager. It shows that there's a path that these people can grow. So we try really hard here is always to hire within. You know, 90% of my supervisors that I have out on the floor, they're all people that weren't hired as supervisors. They were hired as a worker, and, you know, they worked their way up. So they can see that. So it helps. It definitely helps for the retention, and for the people to, you know, see their value within the company. I mean, we got to try to think outside the box, do things a little bit different. But I mean, I believe in this program. I think it's really helped us out a lot. I don't think I know we wouldn't be where we are right now if we didn't have the assistance from these guys here at Polaris MEP.
Preach, Kevin. That couldn't have gone any better than if I had paid you say that.
You can if you want to.
Right, right. That was a wonderful anecdote. I mean, spot on for what you experienced. And I'd like to add, if you don't mind the introduction, that I applaud your opening kind of idea there about the training and the upskilling, because it's a prime example of how your employees could feel the investment being made, right? One of the things I've also coached individual leaders on is being able to look at what an employee has done for themselves to get to where they're at, and recognizing that that is the investment they have made in themselves up to this point. So the question then becomes, what investment is my company willing to make in me, or how are they willing to recognize the investment I've made in myself to go to a class at night, or to come in a little bit early and learn from the guy next to me on the machine, right? That sort of thing. So you have to take that into account. And they feel, on the flip side, the investment in them when you offer them that on-the-job training, that upskilling. So yeah,
Absolutely.
kudos to you. So before we move on to the third solution, I wanted to mention a resource that helps companies like yourselves implement upskilling and other solutions we talk about today. Right now, the Department of Labor and Training is running an incumbent worker training grant. In previous years, some of you might have worked with Polaris MEP to secure the grant. So the Department of Labor and Training were the folks behind it. They allowed Polaris MEP to be the administrator of it to all of you. Right now, it's just back in their hands, but very similar activities. So it works to be a matching reimbursement of grants up to 50% for continuing education, training, and upskilling of incumbent employees. It works out to be about $30,000 max over a 12-month period, with roughly $5,000 per trainee being available, and you can typically apply for about 2 grants in a 12-month period. Some of the other caveats that I like folks to think about is when we say that it's an incumbent worker training grant, there's no stipulation about how long somebody has to have been working for you to be considered an incumbent worker. The day they are hired, they are an incumbent worker. The day they secure an offer, are signed, and have a start date on the books, they are your employee and are therefore an incumbent worker. So you can also consider how to use these for very, very new folks coming in and how to get them quickly upskilled. It does not only have to be training for somebody who is already seasoned. They simply need to be your actual employee. So that's also how you can make this work for people who are recent new hires. So, we definitely believe that one of the best bangs you can get for the incumbent worker training buck is through training within the industry. So Nathan's going to give you a little bit on that right now.
Yes, thank you, Aaron. So if you don't mind me regressing just a tad, I know that that Kevin he sang our praises, but I also do have to give credit where credit is due. They don't, not to get into the nitty gritty, but to Kevin's point, there were many times, when the supervisors had to be juggled around for the time that I would show up for training. We had worked really hard on setting a schedule, and sometimes, on that very day, the supervisor wouldn't be there. And so we would juggle around, and Kevin obviously he's over all of production, so he would do his very best to really work on that to make sure that our time wasn't lost or anything like that. And there were many times where meetings would be going on in the training center, and Kevin would offer his own very office for me to meet with a supervisor and a team leader. So again, I know that Kevin was really talking about Polaris MEP, but I can't express enough also the hard work that Antaya Technologies did, and that's why they're on this webinar, is that it says something about Kevin's leadership, about his cool, calm, and collected way. And he would always try to make a way for a supervisor to be available to meet with someone. and to trust us that we weren't going to go behind his back and try to fill their heads with something of grandeur. And it was something that they could actually do, and he could validate that. So I just really want to talk about that. And as we're talking about this incumbent worker training, he did mention 3 individuals, and I won't mention their names, but there were many times where the supervisor that has been promoted with his team leader, who's now the supervisor, who also had a person who would be following them. It really shows that what he had mentioned about the one-on-one, there were many times where that person who was the team leader really didn't know the frustrations, the type of work that the supervisor had to go through. And so one of our things that we worked through was, well, let's talk about a scrap report. And so all 3, so we're talking about the backup for the backup, was trained on a very specific report so that the supervisor who had some knee issues could be out, and the backup to the backup would know what that meeting needed to be like, would know how to specifically do that report. And then not only that, they really, all 3 of them, we looked at the one best way to collect that scrap. And how would we do that? And so it was just really neat to know that Antaya was a part of that, and that all 3 were going to not only collect the scrap the same way, not only would do the report the same way, but they all knew what each other's job role was in that. And so they had more of an appreciation for each other and in their roles. So I'm going to hand it back to Aarin on the next slide.
Thank you, Nathan.
Absolutely.
It's actually still you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so yes, thank you again. So as I mentioned earlier, that the number one reason people leave their job is because of their relationship with their boss. And I can't make this up. As the 3 of us on this particular day were looking at how long it took to collect the scrap, where those physical spaces should be, advising those individuals at those molding machines, hey, you know, you were supposed to do it at this time. You were supposed to turn the tote this way. You were supposed to tape it this way. You were supposed to put it in this way. That the supervisor, the team leader, and the backup to the team leader all started to understand that there were these gaps for very specific people, but at specific molding machines. And so we started to gather our game plan for, instead of gathering everyone in to this thing and berating all molding operators, we could have this conversation with very specific operators and on very specific topics, whether it be they didn't fill out this scrap report the way we wanted them to, or they don't really understand when they should have their scrap ready, or the location of how to turn that tote. And believe it or not, we were at the very area where now we were going to put the scrap in its original home. And Kevin came to audit that process. He asked great questions of the supervisors. And it was the 5 of us really talking about, well, what did we learn today? What were some of the issues? Well, why is this scrap in this area? What is it that they didn't learn? And I mean that it wasn't timed, but Kevin showed up at the exact time that we were there. And it meant a lot to me. And it seemed like those 3 individuals, they also realized that Kevin was also asking the same questions that I was, and that Antaya was invested, that I was going to be asking the questions from a third party, from the outside. So upskilling isn't just about teaching your machinist how to use SolidWorks. It's really very critical in the leadership skills of your managers and supervisors. And that's what I really liked through that. And this, everyone, Kevin has many, many supervisors. And I did the same process. I'm just giving you the idea of with molding. Kevin gave us the autonomy of all of those value-added processes. And we did that with each and every supervisor. And each and every supervisor also had a backup, which we would call team leader. And at times there were also backups to those backups. So many people will recognize Rosie the Riveter. We can do it. It's on the front of my computer, believe it or not. But not as many people have heard the term training within industry. So training within industry, it goes back, one of the first emergency services established by the US government after the fall of France at the beginning of World War II. It's been used literally on millions of employees with significant results, a government program that actually worked. So this quote is from the War Powers Commission. How is that any different than what every company on this call is trying to do, right? So we wanted to make sure that within the industry, that if the worker hasn't learned, the instructor hasn't taught. And I'll tell you, it's huge when we put the onus on ourselves as trainers and as leaders, as managers, as directors, supervisors, team leaders. And we all know how successful it was that the Ford Willow Run plant produced a plane every 63 minutes, despite constant design changes and the need to train new employees. So there's really three components of the training: job relations, job instruction, and job methods. So the War Department quickly figured out that the most way to help countries within industry was to focus all their efforts on training the front line. And Kevin beautifully sort of proliferated that, that there's these managers or supervisors, team leaders, and what we would call backups to the team leaders, that they are the doers. So in any industry, we're talking healthcare, aviation, automotive, and Antaya happens to be automotive. We could say in machining, it is very specific to the doers. And Kevin wasn't even asked to say that. And he said, those are the subject matter experts, those who actually do the work. So there are three programs. I carry this card with me all the time. Blue, yellow, green, blue, yellow, green. Yes, they're primary colors. These programs were developed to maximize production. Job relations is the one that focuses on a foundation for good relations. When we have people problems or people issues, it is a standardized 4-step method. Job instruction, I would say, is the next priority, because what Kevin was saying, that they have 2 or a skeleton crew of second shift, but it really is the way to achieve really the one best way to do the job safely, correctly, and conscientiously. And I'll be so true. It's probably the program, 4-step method, that people are most cognizant of in this process. And then there's job methods. And why would we do job methods? And Kevin might smile with his pearly whites, but I will be honest with you that the one best way to get everyone to do it, the one best way will eventually show you that maybe second shift does know a better way, or someone else does know a better way. So you're going to have to improve that. And this was really Toyota's way for Kaizen, was to do job methods. I apologize. That's the green one. And it is a 4-step method to do that. But guess what? Kevin knows this all too well. Once you improve that method, you know how you now have to go back and train everyone on the one best method. So there was a supervisor I was working with at Antaya, and the employees kept missing this purple one. They just kept, they would rewire it in a different way. And if you've been there, you got to wire 13 wires to this one specific printed circuit board. So working with the supervisor, we really designed a way, it was like a cadence. And so we did the purple wire every time the third way. So it was like a blue, green, purple, red, yellow, blue, green, purple, red, yellow. And he smiled at me and said, "Oh my gosh, this is such a cool way." So after that, he was really trying to train everyone to really do that blue, green, purple, red, yellow method. So it really is recommended to teach TWI to your leadership team to take care of the people and stabilize your process through training. And then, like I said, then improve the process.
Nathan. And
Yes.
we actually have a job relations training on Monday, right?
Yes, we did.
And we have a job instruction training in
Yes.
November.
We do, yes.
So let's chat a little bit about those. I know that we are over time. We appreciate you guys sticking in with us. We are almost to the end here. So Nathan is going to chat a little bit about the job relations training that we have next week, as well as the job instruction training that we have in November. And then we'll wrap up with any questions that anyone has.
Yes. So thank you, Tiffany. I appreciate that. So yes, JR really could be, would be the first one that someone would go to, because really you're trying to understand how to handle any problem. And so the benefits of going to this workshop is that there will be people within industry of all different companies that can learn the 4-step process. And we actually go through, each person has to present a problem. And what is really cool is they will get a third party, not only Polaris MEP, but someone that doesn't work at your company. And we will break down that problem. And at the end of this process, you're going to have visual aids. You're going to get a certification within the world headquarters from Syracuse, New York, called the Training Within Industry. And you will get a 10-hour certified job relations training just for coming to the workshop next week. And as a group, we will work through that problem. And believe it or not, the workshop to me is a very wonderful discounted way, because you're meeting with other colleagues and hearing their problems. Just like what Kevin said, there's a lot of issues at Antaya. And if he told you, you guys would probably be like, "Oh my gosh, how does Kevin do it?" But it's that relentless pursuit of continuous improvement, showing up to work, knowing you're going to make improvement. But there are times where at Antaya, you get a group of people, 6 would be the minimum, up to 10 people is the maximum. And you really focus on, who are these doers? Who are these managers? Who are these leaders? Let's get 10 of them. Let's take them through the training. And exactly what Kevin was saying, let's spend some one-on-one time and as a group, actually, Kevin and I are going to be talking about this in the next few weeks. Let's bring them all back in as a group and deal with one problem at a time where they feel respected. And we go through their problems, give them possible actions, and then they can go out and address those issues. And that training is also for 8 weeks as a group. Now, Tiffany talked about job instruction. I would really say that this one is also crucial. It's how you learn how to break down a job. So really, there are so many times, it's a 4-step process in training. And there's so many times where as trainers, they may have been the best employee. Now, Kevin would smile again. Oh, well, now Elizabeth is my trainer. You just lost your best operator. So are they your trainer? Are they your best operator? What is it? So we really want to identify that anyone in this 4-step method can all be training at the same level. And so we'll teach them how to prepare the worker. We'll teach them how to present the operation. We'll teach them how to try out their performance, and we'll teach them how to follow up. And you really do need management. And again, this is something that I've worked with Kevin on. This is a workshop. We would love for you guys to sign up. You would be certified with your 10-hour job instruction. And then we could talk about, actually, there was a company that just went through this. And I actually started with them on Tuesday afternoon. Now that they're certified, we're going to be doing the one-on-one coaching every other week and roll out this training program for their company of, I believe, 25 employees. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Tiffany, Kevin, Aarin, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Nathan. And thank you all for joining us. We unfortunately don't have any time for questions, but I did put the 2 links to the classes and the workshops in the chat. I will also be sending those links in an email. Any questions that you guys do have, please feel free to throw those in the chat. We will respond to them in the email that we send as a wrap up. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kevin, for joining us. Thank you, Aarin and Nathan, for hosting this. I hope you guys have a beautiful day. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this, and we hope that you gained something from it. Have a beautiful day. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye,
Thank you.
Kevin. Bye, everyone.